Good evening. It is Sunday, January 5th, 2025. And I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas and holiday season and a happy new year. Thought I'd begin the year with doing a taste test on a couple of things that may be familiar, may not be familiar to everyone. But one thing that is very familiar to me and to a lot of people, and another that has just come into cultivation, at least in the United States, in the last few years. And the first one, and the one we will start with, is Karaji mandarin. And Karaji mandarin is a little tangerine. It's called the lemonade tangerine in Texas. Familiar to a lot of hardy citrus enthusiasts because it is so good and so hardy. This one I've had unprotected here in Georgia since 2017. It did get a little twig dieback, a little bit of branch dieback in the Christmas freeze of 2022, but since rebounded very nicely and has produced a prodigious amount of fruit this year. I picked today at least 2 grocery bags of fruit and still have an equal amount to pick still. It's getting towards the end of its season, but boy, are they delicious. They are just phenomenal. Really enjoy them. And so I know a lot of people have done taste tests, but maybe not in January. So it'd be worth looking at what it looks like now. And Karaji is known as a small mandarin, and it typically is. And here's kind of a typical Karaji. It's small, somewhat oblate, and looks a little like a yellow satsuma. Although as it gets fully ripe, it does tend to turn a little orangish, especially on the bottom of the fruit. But some of them get pretty large, and here's one that's a little larger. It's almost the size of a satsuma, certainly approaching that. And a few of them will actually get as large as a satsuma. So I've already cut one open, and I thought I would just kind of show what it looks like at this point. The peel on Karaji at this point almost falls off. It's so loose, and the fruit itself is starting to pull away from the peel, making it exceptionally easy to peel. But it also is, I think the fruit get a little drier this time of year. They definitely get sweeter than they are in November and early December. About February is about the last time that you'll be able to pick some, and then they just kind of dry out. And when they become overripe, they will almost kind of rattle around inside. But here is the other half of that fruit, and you can see that it's just comes right out. At this point, very easy to separate, as I said, and it's just delicious. It's called a lemonade tangerine for good reason. Just definitely a lemon mandarin flavor, more mandarin than lemon. What you may not know, and something I just recently figured out for myself, is that the peel is also edible. It is not bitter at all, like a lot of fruit. And I made some marmalade out of Karaji about a month ago, and the peel is very sweet, makes excellent marmalade. So it kind of has a lemony, sweet flavor. I would say it's almost as good as a kumquat, but maybe just a tad bit of bitterness, but nothing much to speak of. And certainly when you cook it in marmalade, you don't taste it at all. It'd probably make great candied peel. You know, typically when you make candied peel from orange or grapefruit, you have to boil the water several times and change the water each time you boil it to get the bitterness out. But this probably wouldn't take much at all. Just boil it one time and candy it, probably delicious. So Karaji has a lot of uses. It's certainly very edible out of hand. It's one of the hardiest sweet citrus that we can grow here in Zone 8. I can't recommend highly enough. And when it's on the tree, it's just amazing. The contrast between the yellow fruit and the deep green leaves is just so attractive. All right, so now we're going to move on. This is Amoa 8. And Amoa 8 is a Clementine by Blood Orange. And if you've ever tried to grow blood oranges in the Southeast, somewhat problematic. Some of them color up pretty well, especially like Moro. But blood oranges typically need warm days and cool nights to develop full color. So some of the blood oranges don't, some do. Amoa 8, as I said, is a Clementine by a blood orange. And it takes a while for the full color to develop. So as a consequence, it is what we would call late ripening, not because the fruit isn't edible before then, it just doesn't have full color. So I've got a tree here. It's one of the ones that I do protect as needed. And if the freeze comes as expected this week, it's only supposed to drop to the mid-20s, but I'll probably cover it anyway. I've got a few more fruit I'd like to keep. But I didn't really know if it had developed full color yet. But so I picked one that I thought was had developed nice red blush. You can see that on the bottom of the fruit. And I went ahead and cut it open because if it didn't develop full color, I might not have done the video. So I'll do the reveal now. And look at that. Isn't that amazing? Now, one of the things that Amoa 8 tends to have a problem with is seediness, but I've noticed that this one doesn't seem to have a lot of seeds, or at least not a fully developed seeds. And look at that, amazing color, just beautiful. And so now we'll try to extract some of it without making too much of a mess. The juice comes out blood red, as you can see on the knife. And I'll go ahead and cut the bottom. Maybe that'll be a little easier for me to try. There we go. Yeah, I see a few seeds in there. All right, here goes. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Oh, wow. It's hard to describe. It is deliciously sweet, like a mandarin. But like a blood orange, it has some berry overtones or undertones, however you want to put it. And just, wow, delicious. This is one that is probably a little tender for my climate, so I will have to protect it in colder weather. But I made a decision, if I was going to protect something, it was going to be worth it. And boy, this is worth it. Wow. So good and so beautiful. If you don't have a Amoa 8, I highly recommend that you get one. I think it grows pretty well even in a container. I'm somebody who enjoys and really wants to grow things in the ground, but from what I understand, it does grow well in a container. And it does take a little time for that full color to develop, but even here in Zone 8, in a slightly cooler climate, then it's probably best adapted for it. Look at that rich color, delicious flavor. Wow, what a great fruit. What a great couple of fruit. This one, almost carefree. Karaji is just something that I would recommend to anyone who wants to grow hardy citrus. Amoa 8 probably takes a little more care. I have only covered it one night so far this year. Last night it went down to about 30, and it's done that several times and has not affected the fruit or the tree in any way. So, you know, I probably will cover it if it gets down to mid-20s or lower, but definitely probably pretty good to go up down to about 20 or maybe a little bit above that. But for here, that's just going to be a few nights a year, hopefully. And the rest of the year, we can enjoy the fruit and the tree. And wow, can't say enough good things about Amoa 8 or Karaji. I hope you enjoyed this video and hope to do a few more in the weeks and months to come. Fruit season is kind of coming to a close here, but we'll see what else we can get into. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope everybody has a great week.